Hi, I'm Doug Keck, and this is an EWTN Bookmark Brief. I wanted to talk to you about Father Rutler's book, The Wit and Wisdom of Father George Rutler, published by Sophia, available through our EWTN Religious Catalog. It's only 300 pages, Father. How do we fit all of your wit and wisdom in this book?
Well, I didn't fit it in. You see, this was, in fact, I only saw that after it was finished. The editor was Edward Short, who's a very accomplished scholar, especially of John Henry Newman. It's interesting to see what he picked out of my various writings, and I'm glad he did. I wouldn't have, I might have picked other things or left out other things, because one is not always the best judge of his own work. And it's a quite, I have, if, so I had to assure, actually I had to assure another interviewer that I had not written it because the title sounds rather vainglorious, wit and wisdom. If I had done it, it would have been 2 volumes, of course.
Of course.
But remember what one of my favorite modern philosophers, Yogi Berra, said that a lot of the things I said I never said,
Right.
which was another Yogi Berraism. But everything in there I did say. It's a kind of book that one can just open at any page because there's no particular sequence. Yeah, I do. I remember Cardinal Sunens once saying that after a lecture, a man came up and told him that he had said something many years ago that changed his life. And he couldn't even remember the event. And he asked him, well, what did I say? And he said, well, halfway through the talk, you said, well, that's my first point, and now I want to move on to the second. And I thought to myself, well, that's where I am in life. I'm halfway through, and it's time for me to reconsider where I'm going. So the point that the cardinal made was that he had no intention of changing this man's life by that innocuous phrase, but the Holy Spirit in some way did that. I hope that that's the case.
Right.
Was
Well, there's one quote here I wanted to read, which I thought was great on page 122. Insanity. People who say don't be judgmental are usually guilty of something.
Yeah, and I think that explains why in our political discourse today, so many people become irrational and angry. They are trying to justify something that they have not been able to resolve on their own. I remember it was Bishop Sheen once said that a younger priest came to him and said that he was beginning to have doubts about transubstantiation. And the bishop said, well, what's her name? So it's very easy to rationalize our behavior.
Right.
And I think that explains a lot of anger, what's called anger today, in political discourse. It's just a refusal to analyze our own conscience and discern what mistakes we've made.
One other one before we go, since I've got this time with you. You say all history is the Emmaus Road.
Well, we're pilgrims in this life, and there's 2 men on the road to Emmaus were discussing amongst themselves what had gone wrong. They had seen the crucifixion, and they had hoped that Christ was the Messiah, and the sun was setting, so even nature is paying tribute to the depression of their spirits. And Christ appears in their midst and says, "Oh, foolish and slow to understand all the scriptures and the prophets had said." And then he explains that to them. And then he takes them into the wayside inn and breaks the bread, and they recognize him. This is the Eucharist. And so life is like that because we're always walking every day. We're walking towards the horizon. And the question is the sun rising or setting? And it's doing both. Of course, when the sun sets, it's rising someplace else. But if we listen to Christ and he opens our hearts, and then he reveals himself to us in the sacraments, then we complete life's journey and inherit the eternal promise. So that's why I say that every day is like the Emmaus Road, and just those two men were trying to make sense of things. They saw what seemed to be a failure. They didn't see the God's plotting behind that failure, that he must die to rise again. This was a scandal, of course, and to the religious experts of the day. But it's only Christ in the end who can explain this to us.
Right, exactly. We see the truth in the breaking of the bread. Thank you so much, Father George Rutler. The book, The Wit and Wisdom of Father George Rutler, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. Worth the picking it up. I'm Doug Keck. Thanks for stopping by on this EWTN Bookmark Brief. We'll see you next time.